The present study sought to determine whether socioeconomic status differences influences L2 lexical acquisition in children from more diverse minority L1 backgrounds. Specifically, researchers wanted to know how long it takes for ESL children to display similar levels of vocabulary size relative to same-aged native speakers. To do so, researchers used gap, or verbs that are not semantically specific, to examine ESL children's verb use according to the semantics of the intended event being described. Researchers also compared the lexical development relative to the age in which English was learned. Researchers also used nonverbal intelligence as an approximate measure of children's language aptitude. The study was inspired by the results found from previous research, such as the Miami study, which examined receptive and productive vocabulary size in both bilingual and monolinguals at various grade levels. Results found that vocabulary development in the ESL children was slow in reaching monolingual norms as a result of a moving target nature of vocabulary accumulation. The Miami study allowed researchers to make generalizations about English L2 learning, and it concluded that L2 lexical acquisition was affected by factors such as language spoken in the home, socioeconomic status, and language aptitude. Participants consisted of 19 minority L1 children from Edmonton with a mean age of 5 years and 4 months who had received about 9 months exposure to English in the context of school or preschool. 14 of the 19 children were recent immigrants to Canada, while 5 were born in Canada, but all children in the study had the same language history. There were 5 rounds of data collection every 6 months. Researchers divided participants into group variables which included age of onset exposure to English, mother's level of education, and English use in the home. Children were then visited in their home 2 to 3 times during each round to participate in a series of language tasks, which included the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test and a spontaneous speech sample. Finally, a questionnaire was administered to the parents at each round of data collection, where information about parents' socioeconomic status was collected.
The findings show that the test scores from the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test for ESL children came close to meeting the expectations for receptive vocabulary size in English in just 3 years of exposure to the language. They had a mean standard score of 97, which is close to 100 at round 5, and the Spanish at home children's mean standard score was a high SCS of 80 and a low of 65. They both are lower than the score of the ESL children in Edmonton. And this is due to the ESL children being more immersed in the English language than the children in Miami had a high SES of 93 and a low of 87, which is lower than the ESL children, although significantly closer than the Spanish at home group. What was hypothesized is that the variables of higher level of education for mothers, high use of English at home, high nonverbal IQ are all correlated with faster growth in lexical development in children. And the hypothesis is disproved because ESL children have higher results on the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test. And they aren't learning or utilizing English at home, but instead they're doing it in their own socioeconomic environments. And ESL children whose mothers have post-secondary education had higher Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test raw scores and a larger number of word production during the 5 rounds. And SCS aids in a child's lexical development, as the language can be learned outside the home and the individual can participate in conversation continuing questions. There were 3 children in the group whose scores did not even reach 85, and they had no language learning disabilities. And that needs to be cautioned because there can be slower than average L2 learners who can be misdiagnosed for having a language or learning disability. And for further research, what can be done is studying the effects of English use at home if they're influenced by other factors such as SES, parental fluency in English, or the environment.